Hello and welcome back to the cellblock Scorch. This is Red, and I am the winner of this week's Scorch. This week's prompt was, give me the most self-indulgent and or pretentious tragedy or horror story that you want to. And this was given by Rev. This is a standalone piece. There's nothing really more to it. Maybe one day I'll come in here and flesh this out, because it's basically just an outline with a little bit of dialogue at the end. Just a little bit of background. I really like the regression type of storylines where it's like, someone lived their life and then they died in a tragic way and got sent back in time to whatever point. I think they're interesting and fun. But it annoys me sometimes how, good of an ending everything ends up being, because it's like they just fixed literally everything. And I like tragedies. Everyone will tell you that. I just like tragedies. So the title of this piece is Tragedy. In his first life, Prince Coda was naive. He had goals that were near impossible for him to complete, and he knew that at least. He was an illegitimate child who was only recognized as part of the royal family because there was no way to deny who his father was. Being a carbon copy of his father had served him in that regard. He had a place to sleep and eat that was better than most people could dream about. It didn't matter that he was disregarded, and that other nobility looked down on him like he was some kind of worm, or that his siblings and the king seemed to care more about amassing wealth than doing their job. He'd wanted to change things, but he was too stupid to play political games the way nobility wanted him to. In the end, he got a few families to support his ascension to the throne. He caused quite a ruckus, but in the end, he died. His older brother, though only by a few months, hadn't even killed him. No, he got his dog to do it. Ezra was, undoubtedly, the best swordsman in the Empire. No one ever won against him, but that didn't cover up his stupidity. He didn't care for politics, for bettering the Empire, for bettering himself. Ezra only lived to kill for Nikolai, the most clever descendant of the current king, without a doubt. Clever, cruel, and every word in between, he had a noticeable limp due to an accident in their childhood that Coda was willing to admit he had something of a hand in. But all that meant was that his ascension to the throne was fueled by his silver tongue. At the end of the small uprising he managed to start, he died at his brother's feet from Ezra's sword. And then he woke up. Years before, on the first day at the Royal Academy, the place to send all the children of nobility, no matter how illegitimate. How you did at the Academy determined everything. Who would take over the family's position, what jobs you could hold in a noble household. A second chance to do things right, to collect the people he knew would rise to the top. Coda tried to collect Ezra too. He hated the dog. The way he saw the world was warped and dark. But as time passed, he started to understand Ezra. He learned things he never had in his previous life when Ezra's family became one of his backers. Ezra was an illegitimate child like he was. He knew that no matter how well he did or who he sucked up to, that he would never be more than a knight. At best, he could aim for knight commander, or he could become someone's personal sword. Coda had been born in the palace, and though those in the palace could be cold and cruel with their words, he was still a prince of the Empire. No one would dare disrespect him to the point it was noticeable. His mother didn't have that protection. Ezra had lived a life of abject poverty, fighting in illegal rings as a child to gain enough money to get medicine for his dying mother. He wasn't even aware he was noble until he was 12 years old and whisked away from his mother's funeral to a house where everyone hated him and could show it. His one goal was to leave the house as quickly as possible, and Coda didn't have the power to do that. But Nikolai did. So he lost the best swordsman in the kingdom. But even as Ezra aligned with Nikolai, they remained strange friends. Two illegitimate children who understood each other and didn't. Coda wanted to change the world. Ezra wanted to survive it. Then it was the end again. His small uprising had turned into a full civil war, and they were winning. I don't want to do this, Ezra. Coda held his sword out in front of him and tried to keep the tremble from his voice. He wished he could still hate Ezra like he used to. He wished that the hatred he felt towards the other for killing him had stayed burning. Ezra had yet to draw his sword and looked over at Nikolai with something like acceptance in his eyes and spoke. Coda, you and I both know that I'll die here or be executed. Not even you could come up with a reason to spare Nikolai's dog. Nikolai glared. The least you can do is cripple him, cut his Achilles, or make him lose a hand. Ezra nodded at the command and drew his sword. Coda grimaced and prepared himself. Any other day, he wouldn't be able to win. But it was clear that Ezra wasn't planning on doing his best. And there you go. That's it. I like this Scorch. It's not very well polished, as I'm sure you people listening or reading it can tell. But none of my Scorch pieces are super polished. So that's just life. Let's see. My next prompt is 244A, first and foremost. And it's a lonely climb from the village up to the god's palace, but as the only person who's ever come back, it's your job to continue to deliver the packages to the gods who live above the clouds. Except, the reason you've always come back is that you've never gone to the top. I believe Bones was the winner of this, and their piece is really, really amazing. I'm sure you can tell that I like giving longer prompts like that. But, there you go. I don't really have a lot to say about this piece. As I said, it's a standalone. It probably won't turn into something more. Yeah. Keep that fire burning.
The Cellblock Scorch is a production of Stellacore, an independent group of nerds sharing their obsessions with the world. Links to all our projects, including Instagram, Tumblr, YouTube, Patreon, and Ko-Fi, can be found on our Linktree, posted in each episode description. Follow us on Tumblr or Instagram to see the prompt of the day before the episode drops, and a quote from each Scorch the day after. If you would like to support our creative endeavors, you can give a one-time tip to the Ko-Fi of the writer of your favorite Scorches, or check out our Patreon. There, you can access the Scorches and episode transcripts for free, or sign up for Spark level support for $5 a month to gain access to our embers as well.